Okay, here we are. I hope everybody is able to find the link and get into this webinar just fine, because we're talking about hiring today. And hiring's a very challenging issue that a lot of people work through. And so, as I was looking at the different challenges that entrepreneurs face, I just wanted to bring this one to the table because it comes up so often in the conversations that I see with entrepreneurs around uh, doing business well and running their operations. And it's kind of intimidating, and it's never something that you're good at the beginning. So as we start this process and as we go through this material, I hope it's something that gives you a much better ability, more confidence in this area of your business. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm just giving a couple seconds to make sure anybody who wants to be here can be here. And then we're going to start this presentation. And again, while I'm waiting, my name is Jason Ellinger. I'm the CEO of Taika Translations. I've been working in entrepreneurship in different capacities for the past 15 years at this point. Prior to that, I was United States Air Force, and I served our country in Germany. I was in the medical field, and then transitioned out into the entrepreneurial field and stayed there ever since. And so got a lot of experience and background in that front. So, all right, looks like we're good. Looks like we're ready to start. So I am going to begin the presentation. Again, my name is Jason Ellinger. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, the video, wherever you're watching this from. It would just help us in a very, very nice way to be able to continue making this content and helping more people with valuable content that actually helps them to move their lives forwards and upwards. And in my business, we have a core value that's called being proactive. We are proactive, and we define that as our actions move us forwards and upwards. And we're always looking at for the next right activity that's going to help us do just that. And so as we work through this webinar today, I just want to go over the very challenging subject of hiring well, hiring like a pro, so that when you leave this webinar today, you have all the tools that you need to go out and make your next hire, to actually go through the steps to make your next hire. And so as you listen to the content from this video, as you watch the video, as you write down some notes and work through it and think about your organization and how you can apply a similar structure in your organization, I hope that this is very comprehensive and answers most of the fundamental questions that you have in and around hiring, and that you're able to really engage with this content and put some boots on it in your organization. Again, my personal kind of just something that I always inclined towards is action. I would rather act than sit there, contemplate, and try to figure it out and be perfect the first time. My inclination has always been, okay, think but act. Think and act immediately so that you can get through the different repetitions required to be able to actually prosper in whatever thing it is, because you're going to always suck at first. Okay, maybe not everybody, and maybe some people are going to be better, some people are going to be worse at the very beginning, but at first it's going to be tough. And you've got to get through that stage till the point that you're no longer incompetent and you're actually doing it well enough to have a good impact on your organization and your team. And so many people think that, well, if I'm not good at it, then I shouldn't do it. And then if I can't do it well, then I need to either outsource it or just wait till I'm good at it to start. And that's a very big problem for so many people out there, because you never get good at something unless you spend a lot of time working at it and trying it. I used to remember, as I was looking into the investing space, always thinking about, okay, man, how am I ever going to understand all this terminology in all of these different investment type vehicles, and looking over the prospectuses and calculations and understanding what calculations corresponded to what area, and I just like, man, how can I do that? And I just sat down and I said to myself, you know what? The only way you're going to be able to do this is if you just do it each day, and you do it a little bit, and you become more and more acquainted with it. Basically using a proximity principle to the information, to the data, to be able to come better, and then practice it over time to be able to positively influence my own life with the knowledge I've gained through practice. And so that's what I hope this webinar is for you. It's a point, it helps you to initiate activity, whether you're competent or not, and then move in a direction that really and truly pulls and lifts your company to the next level. Because I truly believe some of the best and most meaningful parts of owning and operating a business is when you have great team members that care deeply about what you do and about the organization and about and you care deeply about them, and you guys do something awesome together and you build something magnificent together, build magnificent outcomes. And only once you do that with a great team over time can you truly feel and kind of embody and just enjoy the incredible power of great teamwork, of great vision, and great forward movement, because now you're moving in a journey together with a group of awesome people that you love and care about, and you're building something amazing. And that is a worthwhile objective. I don't know what path of life you come from. It's always invigorating, life-giving, and grows and impacts people around you for good. So the issue that we're looking at right now is hiring well and hiring like a pro, hiring incredibly well. And before I start, I just want to kind of give the disclaimer that if you thought it was easy, throw that out the window. It's not. If you thought it was too hard for you, also throw that thought out the window. It is not. You can do this. You just need to go through a set of steps. And don't think that you can just skip a bunch of steps. Use this program or a very close iteration of it, and you will vastly increase your likelihood of getting great hires. And the reason I tell you that is because I've done it both well and I've done it not well. And I want to make sure that as we start off, that you understand that this is not theory, and I didn't learn it in some classroom, and I didn't learn it from some professor who never actually hired a great team. I learned this through the blood, sweat, and tears of business, hiring wrong people, having to let some of them go, hiring great people, hiring amazing team members, and really rallying together and achieving some dreams that I never thought were possible in my lifetime. I'm a small country guy from South Texas, in a small town from that had less than 8,000 people. That's where I grew up. And to have achieved the things that we have together with our team, it was so improbable. But now that we have, I look forward into the future, and we work on building this together with our team. And we say the sky is the limits, and we can achieve the most unattainable, unthinkable things that previously were thought that we couldn't do, especially on an individual level. And now collectively, we get to work forward into actually achieving something unfathomably amazing. And so that's what we're working on today with my team. And so, but this step of hiring well and hiring like a pro is one of the first steps to getting to that reality. So let's get into the content and move forwards. Guys, it is better to hire one great person than 5 mediocre or incorrect hires. One great person will outperform 5 mediocre ones. Don't rush through the hiring process so quickly that you miss the mark and hire 4 or 5 wrong ones. You will waste more time. You will waste more sleepless nights. You will be more frustrated at your team and through the inability for them to perform on key performance areas than you would if you just took the time and did it right from the beginning. Now, I'm not saying it has to take 6 months, but you do have to designate a specific amount of time for this process to take its effect in your business and to have a really positive outcome on your hiring process. So we're talking about getting higher performance who genuinely care. I've talked to so many business owners and like, man, my team doesn't care about what we do. They show up late and they steal while they're there, or they show up they show up late and they don't really care about our values, or they they don't do the job the whole way that they're supposed to, or I have to follow up and remind them to actually care in dealing with the work that we have, or be excellent. And so many times, and when I look at my team, I was like, you know what, I really don't have to do that. Because why? Because we have incredible people from the get-go, and we get them on board, and then we get them plugged into what we do, and then because what we're doing is important and it's awesome, we get to move forward together building something amazing, and it's going to impact their life great, it's impacting my life great, and all of us get to lift this company together, and it's something that's genuinely meaningful. And so people who are willing to charge the gates of hell with you do not come from a nonchalant, very unintentional process of hiring. You have to be focused and intentional, like laser focused, to get great hires. And that's what we're going to talk about in this one, in this webinar today. All right. Again, if you haven't already, go to YouTube at Jason Ellinger, Tyka CEO, and like and subscribe to the channel. So let's get into the content. This, by the way, is an introspective, multi-step process. This is not something that you just go out and find people to work for you. This is something that you look inwards so that you can make sure that you're building it on a strong foundation, and then you go out and get the people who will dig into what you do incredibly well, to what you know and love. Many people do this really poorly, and then they wonder why their team sucks, because they do it really poorly. And the whole point of this webinar is so that you are not one of those people. All right, so let's get into it. First, guys, don't just jump off the webinar. If you're just watching the webinar and you're like, oh my gosh, this is some Bible thumping Christian dude, and he's just going to thump me on the head with the Bible. Look, I start with prayer. And I know that not everybody's a person of faith, and that is just fine. But I start with prayer. And what I would say to the people who are not people of faith, who are going to be watching this webinar and who are working through this issue in their business, the point is not simply to pray, although I do ask God to really help me find the people and keep the crazy people away, which I'm going to include a resource in the notes for this webinar at the end, so that you have access to the actual prayer that I pray when I go to look for somebody to hire on our team. And I do believe we should pray and ask God to send us the right person for the job. But I do also understand that not everybody are people of faith, and that's fine. And so I would very much implore you to take time to think about at least an hour the type of person that you want working in your organization, the values that they should have, and the type of person that they should be in order to really integrate into your company. So step one is prayer and taking that introspective look into you, to your values, and to your company. And that's why you need to be so clear about what those are, so that you can actually draw somebody in, and they can succeed. So many people are unclear about what it is they value, that when they hire somebody, they bring them in and it's like, oh my gosh, these people value something completely different, but they're a rock star in this thing. Yeah, but they don't value anything that you value. So you can't really work together and win together. Because when you come up against an issue, you're going to be butting heads the whole time, and you're not going to see eye to eye, and you're not going to see eye to eye so much that you're not going to be able to connect on key points that cause you to win. And winning is much more connected to relationships and your ability to connect with your team and to grow together through all the hardships and all the iterations of failure. And if you can't do that because you don't have fundamentally very similar values, you're not going to be able to win. So this point is all about, if you're a Christian, and like I do, I literally ask God to send me the right people who wants to work with me to continue to carry out our vision. And believe me, guys, and I don't want to say that I don't only hire Christians in our organization. I hire Christians and non-Christians. We hire everybody here because we don't believe that having a business should be excluded, and all the team members of the business. We don't believe that God can't send you non-Christian people to work with you. That's what I'm trying to say. And so, and I think it's one of the best parts of having a business, because you do have different people, but they should have some fundamental values that are very similar. And that's why you have to start here. All right, moving forwards. You have to write the job description. Guys, this is before we do any advertising, before we look into the marketplace, before we talk to anyone about the job, we have to write the job description because we have to know what they're going to do when they come to work with us. If we don't know exactly what they're supposed to do, we're going to trip ourselves up, and we're going to hinder ourselves from being able to successfully move through the interview process in a way that fires the team member up and gives them clarity about what the world it is that they're going to be doing in our organization. And clarity starts from the very beginning. If you don't have clarity at the beginning, you won't have clarity at the end. All right, I feel myself starting to speed up a little bit in my speech, and I can do that very quickly. I can get really fast with my words. That's been commented on in the past. So I'm going to try to rein myself back and slow down a little bit so that as I talk through the content, you can take it in. So if anybody has any comments or has any questions, please go ahead and put those in the chat, by the way. I'm going to be answering some comments and questions during this webinar and making sure that whatever other questions and issues that maybe I haven't addressed on this webinar are taken care of. So as we go through this, please feel free to do that, and I will take a moment and take a look at those at a good juncture. Okay, so list the tasks that they need to perform and the impact they should make. So tasks plus impacts are crucial because the person you hire must embody in every possible way the ability to succeed doing that stuff. And I'm trying to just boil this down to a very clear and easy to understand way so that anybody watching this video, when you go home from this video, you know, like, okay, I can do these things specifically, and this is how I do it. And you can actually put boots on it and take it into your business and put it to work and win. So write down the tasks they need to perform and the impact that those tasks should have. And then you should make it, at first when you do this, you're probably going to put a whole bunch of tasks, and some of them are similar, some of them are connected, some of them are part of a process. And so you need to condense them down into a understandable and, you need to condense them down into an understandable and concise manner so that it's very, very clear and it's not an overwhelming 3,000 task long list of things that they should do. It's like, okay, we want you to do these things, and these are the outcome for those things. And always make sure as you're going through the hiring process, one of the biggest things that you're looking for is this person an embodiment of all of these tasks and responsibilities and impact? Does this person really and truly fit? So many people just try to get a warm body and plug them into a thing. And that is the wrong way to hire. You will be rehiring. Never settle for a kind of sort of fit. You will rehire in the end. Kind of sort of fitting is really, really dangerous, and it's very, very painful. And more than that, it's very, very expensive. So when you go into through that step of the process, make sure that you have written down clearly what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it, or what the impact is, so that as you're going through the whole process, you've got a clear understanding of who that person is and if they match that work. All right, step 3, decide on pay. You need to have at least a range of pay for this team member. If you don't have a range of pay in your mind and in your budget, you'll get to that step and maybe you won't be able to have enough money to pay this person for the work they're required to do. So you have to do the research. I think for the task, for the time to complete this task is about 4 hours. You should spend about 4 hours at least as you're working through building the job description. And now we move into really understanding what is the pay range for this position. How much can we pay this person, and making sure that you have the budget to pay for that. So how do you do this? You do this by researching. You research, then you revise the research, and then you decide. You have to make a decision. Research both internal and external sources in your company, how much you're paying similar positions, how much people in your organization are making, or where they're located in the world that you can get this thing done the best, and the best people for technology are able to do this thing that you need done. And then look at all your internal payment metrics to see how much you can pay for this position, and then look externally. Okay, so how much are people in this area doing this thing getting paid? And this should take you about 4 hours total. Probably not, I wouldn't spend a ton more time on than that. You should be able to find this information in about 4 hours just using Google. Just go into Google, do some research online, find the information about what the thing is that you need done, and then type that in and research for about 4 hours, and you will have the information you need to understand if you can pay what is required to be paid for someone who does this thing in this position and in this locale. So decide on your pay before you go any further. So step 3, decide on your pay. And step 4 is when we start to take a step outwards. So remember, the first 3 steps of the process are internal. Like, we're just doing all this stuff inside of our organization, inside the realms of our own walls, and we're looking at all of this stuff internally. And nobody outside is dealing with any of this whatsoever. We're simply focused on this ourselves and trying to make sure that we have gotten ourselves set up and ready to bring somebody into the hiring process and start walking together with them to create a relationship that works. All right, so step 4 is search. And in searching, you cast a very wide net, which means do a lot. Put your advertisement in as many places as possible. And what so many business owners don't realize is that you can advertise in so many areas for free. There are many, many ways that you can advertise for free in your local Facebook pages and in your local communities. And you just need to make sure that you're creative. So I've heard of a lot of business owners. They started out by getting most of their first team members from churches or clubs that they are part of in their communities, or social groups that they frequent. And these are areas that when you're at the beginning and you don't have a lot of money to go out there and advertise or find headhunters to help you find great people, basically your resource for doing this is legwork. It's called elbow grease and legwork. And so you be as creative as you possibly can. I mean, I know one guy who he called every pastor of every church. He was a Christian. He's a Christian businessman. He called every pastor of every church in their community. It was like, hey, I have this job. I'm looking for this position. Do you know any really great people who need a great job working for a great boss? And so he called them up, and remember, pastors, they meet with all these kind of people in their parishes or in their communities, and they're constantly meeting with people all over the place. And when people don't have a job, a lot of times they ask their church for prayer so that they can find a great job. Or they know, because pastors are so involved with people's lives, they're like, oh man, I can recommend this guy to this company because I know that their family is in need and they have this thing and he's actually good at this thing and maybe has some experience and even provide some of whatever reference. And so this is an area you have to be very creative at first, especially if you don't have resources to do any big, massive advertising and you don't have a big presence in the marketplace. If you just put a video up on YouTube that nobody's just going to come to and think, hey, I want to work there. So start and be very, very creative. The first thing you do if you have a team is to ask your team for referrals and offer a referral bonus. And don't be cheap. If they refer a great team member to your organization, that is worth thousands and thousands of dollars. So I'm not saying give thousands of dollars. That would be ridiculous. But I mean, $250, $500 for a referral bonus to your team. If you can afford that, I think it's well worth it. And you pay it out in a staff meeting and say, this person is awesome. And they recommended an awesome person after they made it through the 90-day probation period, not before, guys. And then say, hey, if you do this to the rest of your team, you're going to get this chunk of cash too. So make sure you're keeping your eyes peeled and only send us rock stars. And if they make it through the 90-day probation period, they've been hired all the way through the hiring process and through the 90-day probation period, then you're going to get a nice referral bonus. And don't be cheap. Actually give a good referral bonus to your team. And you will be surprised about the references that they come up with, because it turns out that rock stars hang around with other rock stars. And more often than not, if they love your company and you're doing great stuff and you're a great leader, and you say, hey, I got a bonus over here. And they're going to be opening their eyes and having their antennas up, looking around and like, hey, oh, so and so lost a job. Well, oh my gosh, you're really great. Come on and work with us. We have a great team. Our leader's awesome. Why don't you come over and do something with us exciting? And by the way, I get a referral bonus. and so and so they really pay attention to this and they really value it. And I've paid it out many times, and it's been one of the best investments that I've ever made in our company and in our team. And I love this process. And I would recommend every company have a referral process and bonus for hires for any positions that they're looking for, and if they already have a team. Announce the hiring team across all of your social networks. Every single social outpost that you can possibly make, put it out there. Make sure that you have all across the social networks, every one that you have free access to, that you have your job post out. You have your job post written, and it is out there. It's posted on your website. So when we have job posts, I have them posted on our website, and make sure that they have a lot of information on there to make sure that people have enough information to weed themselves out, and also to help them to understand if they're a good fit for that position. So across all the free social networks that you have access to, and there are so many out there. If you just sit down and think for 25 minutes, you can probably come up with a list of 10 or maybe even 15 great places for you to put your advertisement that will really help you to be able to get the information out there about your job. And you will be amazed at what people in your community would be ready to jump in to work with your organization, because you have a great reputation, you're doing a great thing. So and so heard about you from so and so somewhere, and the people who you hire oftentimes are not even in the groups. You just have a really great advertisement. Someone's like, oh my gosh, that guy's hiring. And they send it to somebody. And now you've got all these people in this group who potentially can advertise the position for you for free, because their friend needs their friend needs work. And they're looking for a new incredible opportunity. You've got that opportunity, and they're able to take advantage of that. So use all the free kind of free. It takes a little bit of time and elbow grease, but it's kind of free. At first, this is the best way to do this. And I already mentioned the point: reach out to leaders in your community that you value, churches, social groups, etc. So use all the free resources before considering paid options. When you do this properly, most likely you will have a hire and you won't need to go to paid job postings. Most likely you'll be able to get, if you actually use all the resources that you have available to you, all the free ones, and you really do use all of your social networks to advertise the position well, you will probably have enough candidates come to you through all the grapevines that you probably won't need to go through a paid candidate posting. So I always counsel small business owners to do more legwork, be more creative, and get more candidates through actual active legworking. And guys, I see there is a question in the chat. I'm going to come to that in just a moment as I transition to the next question. So just closing out this point, cast a wide net, and make sure you expend all of the resources that you have necessary, all of the free resources that you have necessary before you go to any paid options. I've had great success there, and I've seen so many other business owners do the very same. And I think it's one of the best places to be able to advertise, especially in volunteering opportunity settings as well. Like, look at the people who are in volunteer settings, and oftentimes those are people who may be good candidates for your job, because people in volunteer settings, they're actually volunteering to go out to do something useful. And so you definitely want to have people that have an outward look on life coming into your organization. And I think that's a perfect place to look for help. So, all right, especially if you're involved with them and you value what's offered there. All right, so quick, please like and subscribe to the video if this content is in any way valuable to you. And if you're able to take and put boots on the ground with the content that I'm talking about today, please just like and subscribe to this video, and hit the notification bell, and we'll continue digging into this content. As I go forwards, I wanted to stop and real quick grab this question. What do we do when we're scared to hire the first person on our team? I'm not sure if I would have the money for them long term. Man, this is a question that so many entrepreneurs have at the very beginning. I don't know who came up with this question, but that's a really, really good one because so many people um, have this fear. It's a legitimate and sometimes, many times, paralyzing fear for so many entrepreneurs. I have a business. I've been working 18-hour days. I understand this is no longer sustainable. I'm making money, but I'm not necessarily good at all of my bookkeeping. And I need help because if I continue like this, I'm going to go nuts. I'm either going to go to a psycho ward or I'm going to collapse. So I have to get help. What do I do? But I don't know how to get help because I've never done it. And I'm too afraid because I'm not sure if I have enough money for it. Well, first of all, you do have to sit down and count how much money you've got. Now, most of the time, it's relatively simple, especially if you have no team members at the beginning. You know that if every month there is money left in your bank after all the expenses are spent, all of them, including taxes and any business expenses or subscriptions or technology, and there's still money there, it likely means that you have money to be able to pay someone for something. And depending on how much money is there, you can understand how much you're able to pay somebody. And if you have been doing your business for a year, 12 months, you started it and your startup and you've been doing it for 12 months, and you see that each month there's some money left over this thing, and you're working and you're bringing more business in, and you see that the numbers are growing. Okay, now you can tell yourself, okay, when you're afraid, the facts are your friend. The best way to tell what the future is to look back at the last 6 months, what has transpired in your organization or in your business. Or if you have the blessing of having many years of operation, is to look back on the last 3 years of operation and say, okay, what's happened the last 3 years? Now we can look forwards and project that. But if you haven't been in business very long, you've been in business 12 months and you only have a year of information, well, that's what you've got. But when you're afraid, the facts are your friends. So you sit down, and I'm trying not to get too overly complicated and overwhelm people with the answer to this question. But really, it's a matter of you looking at your money in your bank at the end of each month. And if you're operating and you have a profit, meaning you've paid all your expenses and there's money left over, and it looks like there's enough money to pay a team member to help you, then you've got enough money and you should take the step forward to do that. Because you can't amplify your efforts if you're expending all of your possible resources in an 8, 12, or 18-hour workday. And I remember this. I did this. I mean, I actually literally did this back in, well, I mean, we started, I mean, I did it 15 years ago, and then I did it again in 2014 for a period of time while we started up my company, Taika Translations. And so we started up the company, and we had money at the end of each month. So we understood, okay, there is money, even though I'm scared because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I do see that the facts say that I have more money. And if I hire somebody and it takes a huge chunk of my work, not only will I maintain my sanity, but I will be able to focus on those activities that bring more resources in. And if I can do that, is it likely that I increase our revenue, or that we increase our revenue now that we have a team? And 1+1 = 2. So now you have a team. And I would say that's how you overcome the fear of your very first hire. You look at the facts. When you're afraid, you recognize the facts are my friend. Now, if you look at your money and you don't have enough, then it's likely that you need to make some adjustments in your business to either raise your prices to become more profitable, or look at your little business and find out if you're altogether profitable. If you're not profitable, that's a discussion for a different question. But that's how you decide from at the very beginning, in the most rudimentary form. Okay, can I hire a new person? All right. So I hope that's answered that question for somebody out there very clearly. If so, please leave a comment and let us know if that was helpful. And if not, and you need some more information on that, I'll be happy to continue and dig deeper in that. All right. So as we work on one of the things that I started doing as so my Taika Translations, our organization is a service organization that we started simply by translating documents, basically document translation. That was a very nucleus thing that we started with. And then we started to grow and get bigger and bigger in different types of work. So translation, then interpretation, then compliancy, then accessibility, and then on-site helpers and service providers. And so now, uh, one of the things that we do is we help people just basically. I'm going to simplify it down to uh, get critical tasks done for your company that you need, but you don't have the resources to do it, and you don't have the current resources to pay. I'm sorry, I phrased that completely dumb. Uh, so you need stuff done, and you don't have the expertise or the long-term track record to understand how to get all of this stuff done, and it impacts your organization for in a profitable way. But you need this stuff done, and you need these set of services done, or this set of stuff done, and you can outsource that to our team, and we take that stuff and we get it done for you, and we help you identify those things that you need to get done so that you can continue focusing on your business, building your operations, and we help you to fill in the gaps where you lack some of those resources, some of those human resources or those skills. And so I just wanted to mention that as a part of growing our company, that's something that we did for ourselves, and then we looked at the marketing, was like, man, we could help so many more people with this. Why don't we just do that? We're already really good at it. Why don't we help more people do this very same thing? So that's part of our business, and how we grew from uh, basically a couple $1,000s a month to a multi-million-dollar company. Okay, so now, since we've got our advertisement done, we've done all this front work, basically this first 4 steps. Now we get to the point where we do the interview. So many people do this backwards. They're like, okay, I need help. They look around. It's like, hey, you want to come interview? Hang a sign on my front door, the door of my store, my restaurant, my little business boutique or whatever. I need help. And somebody walks in. Okay, sit down. Let's have an interview. But you have to do the first 4 steps first. If you want to do this well, if you want to hire like a pro, do the first 4 steps first. If you just want to do it, do whatever you want, and you'll be hiring again. But this is how I did it and how I learned to do it, so that I didn't have to continue hiring again and again the same position and be unbelievably frustrated with low performance or people who weren't committed to what we're doing. So, all right. So now we've got a couple candidates. We have their information, and they've demonstrated their desire to interview with our organization. Great. Now what do we do? The first thing we do, and if you have multiple team members, I highly recommend that it is not you, the leader, who does a 15 to 30-minute phone call interview. And honestly, most of the time, it's more like 15 minutes. The candidate gets on a call with you for about 15 to 20 minutes, max of 30. Cap it at 30. Don't go further. If you need to go further, you will, but this is not the time to go into further and deeper interviews. Just do a quick interview. And in this interview, you do 3 things. Actually 4. You assess whether their values align with yours. And in that, you look for, do they show up to the call on time? You can do it virtually, or you can just do a phone call. I prefer doing virtual video calls. Do they show up on time, or do they make you wait? Are they able to have a logical, consistent conversation? Can they answer questions and reply back and forth with very useful, normal, engaging conversation? Or are they simply yes, no, I don't know, like not pleasant? And then, do they really exhibit a genuine desire to work with your organization? Do they ask any questions about your organization, or did they even look into who you are altogether? Did they search anything online about your organization? Do they have a genuine desire to be interested in you? And again, I prefer that the boss doesn't do this. I don't do it in our organization anymore. it's something that somebody in your organization can definitely help you with, because a lot of times people in your organization who have been there a while, who know what your values are and what you expect in team members, they have a really good feel, like a really good radar for understanding if this person is going to fit that or not. Sometimes you as the owner don't, because you're so passionate about what you do and you love what you do and you're involved and invested in it, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is what we're doing, so cool, and we're doing this thing and it's going to change the world. And you just find out that like this person doesn't care, they don't have anything close to those values, and they don't want to do anything big with their life. They just want a job, a job where they can show up late and steal while they're there. So like they don't care. So one of the best, that's why I would highly recommend that somebody else in your organization, um, maybe either another leader or another team member, that they have this call and they're like, okay, this person actually, they sound like a fired up person, and we should continue the process, or they're done and we don't want to keep the conversation going. So the intuition of your team member, if they have any bad feelings whatsoever, take it very seriously. Don't just say, well, I know better. I know better, and I know how to hire people. I've been doing this longer. I'm the boss, so I understand everything. That is a really dumb idea and a really great way to fail. Because if you hire great people, it means they have great skills and intuition and they're great team members. If they are that, they will be able to help you understand if somebody aligns with you. Now, if you don't, well, then you're up a creek without a paddle. That's on you. But if you do hire great people, they will understand if people are able to thrive in the environment of your organization or not, and they will help you weed out the bad apples. So do the drive-by interview, 15 to 20 minutes. Look for the very basic. Do they have a desire to work? Can they hold a conversation well? Are they here on time? Do they seem like they have some kind of values that align with ours? If the answer is yes, all right, we move to the next step. And we have an actual interview. In the interview, I want to I almost want to stop here. I just want to make sure that it's like if somebody sends an email and says, "Hey, yo, I want to work for your organization," you're like, dude, um, provided some kind of background. Do you have any references? Do you have any profile? Like, who are you? Like, you need to have some kind of resume or reference, because I mean, our organization, the bigger you get, the more of these you will get. I mean, our organization gets emails every single week with people asking to work here, and um, you would just be amazed. Like people send email, hey, do you guys, can I work with your organization? It's like, I don't know, can you? And like, who are you? What is your profile? Like, what can you do? You just didn't even send me anything. Or, hi, my name is Jake. I do sales and I want to work with your company. Okay. And what? So get a resume, get the resume, get references from them. Make sure that you actually have some very good talking points. I would say it's not like the most useful and important piece of information, but it's very important to start the discussion, to begin the relationship, because the entire process is about building relationship with his team member or with this new person in order to understand if you can actually maintain a relationship long term, because ultimately if they're going to be a team member, that's what it's going to be. So actually check the references on their resume and make sure that if anybody puts someone on their resume that does not vouch for them, it means they are not smart enough to hire. And if they provide you no references, and it means that they don't have any references, then it means you probably don't want them working for your organization. So this is very important. Don't skip it, but I wouldn't put too much weight on this one section. Whatever is written there, it is important for conversation's sake, but it is not the make or break, does not make or break the interview process. But it is important, so pay attention. Check the references. Always check the references. All right. Personality and questionnaires. And this is the part where you start to have a lot more interviews. So by now we've had the drive-by interview, and we have had the CV or resume and references, interview and check. So this is already 2 interviews by this point. Some people, I'm so amazed that some people, entrepreneurs, they like, okay, I had 1 interview with this person and I think I'm going to hire them. I'm like, what are you talking about? You are completely insane. If you think you can discern whether or not somebody should work with your organization and can care about what you do, be tied into your values, and integrate into your life from 1 conversation, I feel like you're kind of nuts. Maybe you do need a team member that would only come on if they worked in one in a one if they only got hired from a 1 interview process. But if you want a great team member and one that cares and charges the gates of hell with you and is there when the going gets tough, then you're going to have to connect in a completely different level. So, personality and questionnaires. So, I use these 3, and honestly, you can use the free or the paid version. Um, and I'm going to include some links in the description to this webinar to make sure that you have those accessible to you. And you can just go in and send these links to your team members. And by the way, I have no affiliation whatsoever with them. I've just learned that these are great. These are great ways to understand the personality or inclinations of people, and they help me to understand a little bit deeper maybe some of the things that they say, or maybe helps me to interpret what they mean, because I could be a completely different style of personality. And if I'm not taking that into consideration while I'm going through the interview process, I could really easily just write them off the list if I don't understand that they're communicating differently because they have a different personality. And so I always get the personality test at this stage. So at this stage, we'll do a interview talking about all the personality stuff. And depending on how long that one is, we'll either go into the ideal team player questionnaire. That's from Patrick Lencioni. He's got an incredible book on talking about the humble, hungry, and smart mandatory requirements for every single team member. And I highly recommend it. If you don't have the book, go get the book. It's one of the best books that you can find on hiring great team members. And where Patrick Lencioni goes over talking about how to hire ideal team players. And so I have my team members go to that website and fill out the questionnaire and send me the answer to their self diagnosed or their self input questionnaire. And you can do this too. And I think it's a very, very important tool, and it gives some great ground information for you to be able to have a conversation around. So I would recommend then having a interview on the personalities, and then having another interview on what the output from the ideal team player questionnaire is. And then you can make sure, okay, so a couple caveats here. Make sure though, when you do this part, that you send them the email with a deadline as to when they're supposed to have it done, because this entire process is about learning this person and understanding if they're going to be able to work with you as a leader. And if you can communicate clearly and they can understand you clearly and they can do stuff that you ask them to do on time. And so get these questionnaires done and make sure you put a deadline in so that you can very clearly get the information back when you need it, and then follow up with your next interviews. So you've already had 2 interviews at this point. Now you have had the DISC and 16 personalities interviews, and now you've had the ideal team player questionnaire interviews. That's 4 interviews by now. And by the way, at this stage, I always bring in another leader or team member into the process, aside from that first 15 minutes interview. But I always bring another team member into the process to have individual interviews. So I will go through my interview and I will pass it to another team member like Mike or like Daniel, and they will, or like Maggie, and they will go through and they will have the same interview around a similar subject, maybe around the personalities or the ideal team players or some other questions that they come up with on their own. And they will have 2 or 3 or 4 other interviews with them. And so that means by this time, by the time we're done with step 7, we've had like 7 to 8 interviews with a single candidate. Like, that's a lot of work. And it should be, because in order to get a great team member who integrates and loves what you do just as much as you do, and actually makes a powerful impact on your company and really moves the needle, you're going to have to put the work in. And so many people don't do this. And then they complain about why their team sucks. And they're like, no, you just suck. You didn't hire well. So you've got to do the job up front to hire well. And if you do that really, really well over time, you will have an awesome team that you can be proud of and that charges the gates of hell together with you when you go through those down spouts. And you will go through them. Life is full of suffering in so many different ways. And as such, business is not foreign to suffering. You will suffer. You will go through struggles in your business, and if you have great team members on board with you, they'll go through that with you and help lift you out of it, and you will help them lift them out of their struggles as they go through theirs, either personal or business. And so, the whole idea is to get a sense of how they work and what you should expect in a professional relationship in the future. You want to be able to understand who this person is and what you should be able to expect from them in the future. Do they show up on time? Do they get the tasks done on time? Do they understand your instructions clearly? Do they complain? Do they give excuses as to why they couldn't get stuff done and send it in on the right time? All of these things you can just ascertain as you're going through these steps. And if you find that somebody has a pattern, they didn't show up to the first call on time, and now they didn't submit this on time. Okay, these people have trouble getting stuff done. So do we think they're going to be a great team member? No, because they can't get stuff done on time. They don't prioritize well in their life. And if they can't prioritize well in their life, guess what happens when they get onto our team? They're going to not be able to prioritize. And if they can't prioritize on our team, how are we going to succeed together? We won't. So in this part, we move them out of the process. So additional notes. I already mentioned this. Have other team members participate in interviewing. Ensure their personality test results align with how they present themselves. Some people, for some unknown reason, put in the personality test what they think they should be. And that's why I do 2 tests, actually, because I really want to make sure that when I'm talking to this person and I have these reports down in front of me of what their personality is, that person that I'm seeing is actually the person that's being manifested on these reports. So you would be surprised as to what people put or how they fill out these personality tests. And you're like, this is not you in any way, shape, or form. It also represents your inability to connect with reality. And anybody who cannot connect with reality and fundamentally also understand at least some elements of who they are personally, it really makes it a lot harder to be able to build a relationship. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a genuine relationship with this team member and then integrate them flawlessly into our organization moving forwards. And the only way we can do that is fundamentally understanding who each other is as a person and then really connecting. So ensure their personality tests align with how they present themselves. Conduct multiple interviews to deepen your understanding and build rapport and dig into any red flags that comes up. This is so important because knowing about the personality styles, you have different team members that have different strengths and that can see different things and ascertain different things from the conversation and the questions and answer sessions that they have, the interviews. So by this time, we've had about 8 interviews with a single candidate, and we're able to, so now we meet on the side. So you've had the interviews, 2 or 3 people have had their interviews. Now we jump in a quick meeting. We say, okay, this is what I've felt about this person. This is what I asked this person. This is how they answered it. What did you guys get? And now we get to discuss this person in detail and really understand, okay, did you feel like they had these characteristics? Did they show up on time? Did they converse well with you? Did you resonate? Could you create rapport with them? Do you feel like they're going to be a good fit for our organization? Did they represent anything that we deeply or don't value in our organization or just don't really care about? Or do they seem like the type of person that can really lock in and to jump in on, like, would you love to work with this person? And this is where we have those side conversations. So you not only have the interviews, but now you have the side conversations with other people, and you get a lot of information in your team around this person and if they're a great hire. And that's so useful, because then you as a leader take that piece of information back to the interview process, and you say, okay, um, these are some things that we're talking about, and as our team has been interviewing it, this is some things that we'd like to dig into, and you dig into those things. Um, and it could be a super expensive hobby that they have, or really taxing thing that takes a ton of their time, and it brings a concern. Like, okay, these are the hours that you're supposed to work, and we see that this hobby can only be done at the times when you're supposed to be working. How are you going to handle that? How are you going to handle not doing that thing and working at the same time? Like, what's your plan for that? And then you get to talk about it, and you get to open the doors to those different questions that people have, those different things that they're challenging with, that they challenged with, or different maybe places in the value, the differentiation in values. And you get to discuss those live and in person before you ever hire them, because you want to know this before you hire them, so you can weed them out. And if you can weed them out before you hire them, or be like, oh my gosh, you are freaking amazing, we want you here. You want to find all of these details out before and during that, uh, as you go through the process of interview, because you get to build your relationship, and great performance is rooted in great relationships. The birth of great performance comes from incredible relationships that you built with your team as you work through the interview process and beyond. So you have to ask yourself in this stage, do you like them? There's this weird kind of professional opinion out there in the marketplace that says, well, if you are professional enough, you can look past vast differences in value systems. And you're like, yeah, you could do that, but why in the heck would you ever do that? Why would you work with people you don't like? Do you like these people? Do you enjoy spending time with them? Like, when you're in their interview, ask yourself that question. Are you trying to get off the phone as fast as possible? Or is this conversation pleasant? Do you appreciate their gestures? Are they appropriately making comments or asking questions? Do they make you feel uncomfortable? Are there pauses that they're just super nervous and you're super nervous, and you just are super nervous of each other because of some, you can't connect? Like, are you really having trouble facilitating a conversation? Do you like this person in general? You don't need to work with people you don't like, and you don't have to hire people you don't like, and you shouldn't. So make sure you answer that question to yourself very honestly, and that you ask the team members that you have that have interviewed them, like, hey, did you like them? And that sometimes, if like, that is literally reason enough. Like, when I interviewed this person, I really didn't like them. How did you feel? Like, I hated my interview with them. And the other guy, like, how did you? No, it was terrible interview. I didn't like it at all. Like, okay, that's enough. Let's weed them out. They don't get to stay. We'll continue searching. And I think sometimes people get into this tunnel vision, in this tunnel vision, where they say, well, this is the only person I could find, and the only person that can work in my organization. There's nobody else. And that is so wrong. It is not the only person. I listened to an entrepreneur podcast, and he said, so many business owners out there, they're like, they're like, they don't understand that there is infinite clientele for their business. If they've got a normal business, and there's actually a market for it. Like, if you sell ice boxes, like the boxes that you put ice in, that you need to put ice in so that, that people have cold food, we're not talking about that kind of product. But if you sell ice refrigerators that actually have a refrigeration cooling system in it, and, it actually cools food down and keeps it cold in their house, right? You got a product, and there's infinite clients in the world for you, for your business. And I want to remind you, there is infinite opportunities for you to find team members for your organization. So many people get tunnel vision and say, okay, this is the only people, or I spent all this time searching, and these are the only candidates that I could get, and there's no one else in the world, so I just have to make do. And that is as far from the truth as possible. And you have to destroy that belief that you will not be able to find the person, a great team member who you love and care about, and who cares about you, that can get into your organization and be on fire in their position. Okay, so Don't ever just be like, well, I really didn't like them, but they're the only human in this vicinity, and so I have to hire them. No, that's a terrible idea. You will injure yourself and your business by doing so. Don't do that. Do they seem excited and light up when we talk about the work? This is very important. They have to seem excited and light up. They need to have a genuine interest in the work. If they don't have any interest in the work that you are doing right now or the job that you have available for them, they're not going to work. They're not going to be able to prosper there. They're not going to be able to flourish. And you want a team member that comes in, loves what they do, and loves how they do it, and loves the values behind which you're built. And you want that to be the reality for them. You don't want somebody to be miserable. You want them to light up. You want them to be excited and happy about the work they do. They have the skills, they have the passion, they appreciate the values, and that's all unified in the result, in the impact that you create through the product or service you sell, and now they get to be a participant in that opportunity. And if you've got people like that working on your team and they're excited and they light up when you talk about the work that they do because they're great at it and they really carry those things out well, then you've got a really opportunity for a great potential candidate as a team member. All right, so the next thing that we do is we get a budget. Guys, I a lot of people have pause at this step. Like, a budget? That's way too personal. And when I talk to entrepreneurs about this one, and they're like, well, I don't think I should have asked for a budget. I often come back with the very, it causes me question in my mind. It's like, well, then what do you think your role is as a leader? Like, what do you really think your job is as you lead your team well? Like, you think your job is to make sales and to make more income so that you can just pay everybody? Is that it? Or do you actually realize that you have a very important role in this person's life that you play as a leader? And as a leader, you need to make sure that when they're doing work, that the money that they get paid is enough for them to thrive on, is enough for them to pay all their bills and to be able to meet all of their obligations. Because broke people struggle at work. They don't win. They don't prosper. Broke people, they don't win at work. They have a really hard time. And anybody who is broke and struggling through trying to make the ends meet every single month, sweating bullets at the end of every month, hoping that they're going to survive, is going to struggle to win in your company. So you must care enough about the team member and have the relational sense, maybe even communication skills, to be able to ask for a budget, a monthly budget for the team member. You don't have to know exactly everything they spend their money on. And honestly, when I mentioned this subject to our team members, I'm like, look, I don't care how much you spend on any specific thing. I mean, that's your private deal. But I do want to know that as a responsible leader, I believe for our team in our company, that is my job to make sure that you make enough money to meet all your responsibilities and thrive. And if you don't, and if this amount that I can pay you does not do that, then like I have this saying that then God says you can't work here because God can do math. God knows how to add, so you can't work here because the money that we're paying for this position is not enough for you to meet your obligations. So, like I don't ever want to have somebody to come into our organization who does not make enough money to meet their obligations and then becomes very bitter and mean to our clients and bitter at me because I'm not paying them enough. Because I want to make sure that in the very beginning, before we start that relationship, we say, okay, this is how much money I make. This is how much I need to meet my obligations, and I can do that on this money. Okay, then it means we can go, that we've successfully addressed this step, and then we can go forwards. But if you get to this step and they need to make $130,000 a year, and all you can pay is 40 or 55,000 or 75,000, then it's an obvious stop. No, this person is not a good fit. They get out of the interview process, and you continue on with those people who can fit into that salary requirement that you have for your organization that you can pay for this position. So being a great leader is about a comprehensive relationship that you have with your team on so many different levels. And so the budget is a very critical step in the process of making sure that your team member is able to win, because you're wanting to make sure that they can come in and win, that they have the resources to do so, and when they go home, they're not laying in bed staring at the ceiling all night, worried about how they're going to survive next week. You want to be able to them to go home, rest, relax, rejuvenate themselves, and come to work and bring it the next morning because they're okay and everything in their environment is okay. So I just want to make sure that that one's very clear. We're not trying to be ultra like over personal here. We're trying to be great leaders and take care of our team. And if they completely refuse to send you a budget, it's fine. It means they're not a good fit, or it means that you haven't communicated well what you're asking, and you need to re-communicate until they understand the request in a way that is amiable, in a way that they would actually accept to do it. And if you can't do that, then this means that they're not a good fit. Fundamentally, they don't trust you. And if you can't trust people on a vulnerability based trust level, you will never be able to build a great team or a great team member from this person or this position. So get the budget and move to the next step. Actually, when you get the budget, I just want to go back to that. You have to go over the budget and you have to talk about the budget to make sure that everything matches. And this is normally a relatively quick interview. You've got the numbers, you can see the budget, you know how much you're paying for the position. We talk about it. And sometimes you can combine this interview with other interviews. So by this point, we have had at least 8 interviews with a single candidate. And now you've had at least 8 interviews with multiple candidates at this point. And the more energy that you invest in this part of the process, in this process, the faster you go through it. A lot of this takes me and my team at least a month to work through the whole process once we're starting the interviewing process around a specific position, and we've got multiple candidates working through this thing, and it takes us at least a month to actually schedule and get through all of these things and meet and talk and get through all the parts of the points of the process. I say by now you've conducted at least 5 to 6 interviews, and I mean you personally, and that means your team has also conducted a number of interviews. That's why I said at least 8 interviews by this point. And with an individual team member. So if you're interviewing multiple people, it means that you've had, I mean, you could easily, if you have 4 people, you could easily have 24 interviews by this point. That's a ton of work. And it's a ton of work to get great team members. And it should be, because great team members they're just not everywhere in the marketplace. They're very rare. And your ability to find them and your skill in this is very, very important for your organization. It's one of your main jobs to bring on excellent talent to help you win in your organization with the rest of your bringing on people in your organization who fit your values and who will charge forward in your vision with you. Hiring is an ongoing critical function requiring a connected and invested team that embodies your values and that can recognize them in potential hires. Their ability to see new team members and those values embodied in that team member is critical. And your ability to find team members that dig into those values will change the entire outlook of your organization. And so when I'm not talking about hiring. I'm talking about hiring like a freaking pro, like hiring people you love to see each day across the screen or in your workplace, because you've done it incredibly well, because you've worked through and invested yourself so much into this process that there is some level of sacrifice that you have invested in this, so that you want to make sure that this relationship works. All right, so more checkpoint notes. At this stage, meet with your team. Make sure you're discussing the interview results. We talked about that already, but you're very adamant at this stage, meeting very intentionally meeting with your other team members who have interviewed with each of these individuals and making sure you're discussing the interview results. You're providing training and guidance to your team at this point on how to conduct effective interviews. A lot of times at this point, you're having junior people on your team who are good, who understand your values really well, but they don't really know how to interview, and maybe they've never done it before. So this is a great time for you to actually train people or give questions to people and talk about how to do great interviews with your team members and draw them into the process so that you have a continual process of drawing people into the interview process and building them into your organization and building the people in your organization their skill in helping you to do this. Hiring done right is a lot of work. And I think you're probably getting that by this stage of this video, that hiring done well and hiring like a pro is freaking a lot of work. It takes a lot of work and introspection. It takes a lot of conversation, communication, clarity, reclarity. It takes some frustration. It is a little bit frustrating at first when you really suck at it and you're not able to get to any great candidates very quickly, but it really speeds up as soon as you start getting a high performance team who really is integrated in the values and loves your company for who you are and what it is and loves you as a leader, and you guys are charging forward together, working arm in arm on each and every day. And when you have a team like that, you can get to the right candidates so much faster and weed out the bad ones so much faster, and really they help you move this process forward at exponential speeds versus you continually having to be stuck at that very beginning stage where you're hiring and hiring and hiring and firing and firing and hiring and firing again and again and again. And again, at night, you're laying in bed awake because you can't get anybody to do what they're supposed to do and you don't know why. And it's because you're hiring kind of poorly. All right, so you should be convinced that this role is truly what they were made to do in this life. It's them living or moving towards their dream. Guys, the role that you are interviewing them for, it must be must be truly have been made to do this. It's them living or moving towards their dream in this life. It's not something that it's not just a job, something they show up late for and leave early. It's not something that they don't care about. It's not something that when the sales falter, they don't dig in and they don't invest themselves and they don't think creatively. It's something that they're genuinely good at, that they have the skills to do the work, they have a passion for it, and it's meaningful to them. And this thing is them living their dream or definitely helping them move towards their dream. And they understand that and you understand that. And so you should be completely convinced by the time you finish the whole process that this is reality. And if it's not, you need to make sure you move that candidate, even if they're good, out of the process, or maybe postpone them for another position that you have in the future. Because if your company is growing, and you should always be growing, then you will definitely have the need for another great team member sometime in the future for a different position or a different type of position. So you always keep those doors open if you've got a great team member, but they don't necessarily fit this exact position. All right, so step 9. We're already getting pretty darn serious at this point. We've had a lot of conversations. We have a lot of interviews. Our team's vested in this person. We're invested ourselves. We're communicating, thinking very comprehensively, understanding a lot of the communication aspects and skill aspects of this team member. And now we get into compensation and benefits. This is more tactical. It's kind of a little bit easier to work through because the facts are the facts. But there are a couple important points. And you need to make sure that the team members are able to operate under the pay structures and organization processes that your company has. So compensation, benefits, they're all discussed and opened up at this point. You're like, okay, these are the things we do. These are how we do it. And the person's like, oh, well, I can only get paid one time per month. It's like, well, we pay twice per month. So, or the opposite. No, I have to get paid twice per month because I spend all my money. I can't hold on to my dollars. It's like, oh, so I mean, you can't live on a budget. It's like, no, I can't. It's like, oh, well, that's really good to know. So that's probably not a great team member because they have no self-control. But anyways, you get into this, and there are some tactical conversations that you have around compensation and benefits, and those are pretty clean cut Like, here's the amount of money. This is how we pay out. Here's the benefits. Here's the leave days. Talk through that. And like, this is what we are. This is who we are. This is how we operate. Are you good with that? Does this work with you? And you get an opportunity at this stage to talk about it, and just work through it. Very important note is, if someone focuses too much on compensation when they begin the interviews, they're likely too concerned with what they are going to get or themselves rather than what they're going to contribute. If you come into the first two interviews and they're all about paying compensation and benefits and how much time they can have off, then that's a red flag, and they probably need to be set aside in the interview process and shortlisted at that point. Because it's very important for the person coming into your organization to exhibit a characteristic of what I can bring to the table, how I can solve problems, how I can contribute, how I can bring value to you, to your company, and to your team, and how I'm charged up and passionate about doing that each and every day. Now, remember, we talked about the different personality styles. So everybody shows that, it manifests that differently per their personality style. And you have to understand that as a leader, which is why it's so important at that early stage to really try to get a grasp on who they are personally, so you understand how they communicate and what mechanisms they use in their personality trait to be able to communicate the things that matter to them. So just be aware of that as well as you're working through discussing the compensation and benefits. And then and make sure that if somebody is focusing too much on the compensation and benefits at the forefront, that you understand that this is a self-serving person, not somebody who's coming to serve the team and the company that they work in. Because ultimately, when we serve our company well and our team well, we also serve ourselves well. And somebody who has a really healthy understanding of that is going to be a good team member. And somebody who doesn't, obviously, they're not going to jive well with the rest of the team. All right. Job description and care raise. Whoa, I just scrolled really crazily here. Sorry. Step 10, we discussed the job description. So the last one was not about the job description, guys. That was simply about compensation, benefits, and leaves, and all the kind of mechanisms around that. But this is, we get into the job description, the key results, KRAs. Sometimes this can all be done in one interview. A lot of times it can be, because some of this takes like 10 minutes. You can pretty comprehensively explain how your compensation system works, and benefits and leave. So 10, 15 minutes probably. And then you can move into working through talking about the job description and the KRAs. You review the expectations with the candidate. You ensure clarity, like exactly, these are exactly the types of things that you need to do. And these are exactly the impacts that we're looking for in our company. These are the outcomes our company needs from this position right now. Can you do that? And you get to talk through these. And then, because you already have the job description, right? You already have these key result areas because you wrote the job description. And I think it was 2, right? Or step 3. And now we discuss that. We take that document and we really go over it in detail with the client. We introduce our reporting structures, weekly reports, meeting rhythms, our one-on-ones, our check-ins. We identify any conflicts whatsoever with the team member might have in any way, shape, or form with how we work. Guys, you would be amazed at how you get through all the other steps of the process, and then you get to all of the functionings around how your organization works. And I've talked to so many entrepreneurs about this, like, well, I work like this, but this team member asked if I can work like this, and this other team member, they want to do work like kind of like this way, and this one want to work from home, and this one works half shift, and then they want to do, and like, oh my gosh, it starts to get so confusing so quickly. You set the tone as the company owner and leader for how the work is carried out. You don't, and as much, I think, I have to be honest, I made this mistake at first, where I was like, well, I just want to be generous and make everybody comfortable. And that was such a big mistake. I let so many people down in our organization because I started to let everyone work whatever way they wanted, instead of make a general standard for our organization. Say, okay, this is the job, this is responsibility, this is how we operate. Can you fit? Does your life fit that? And so many people get to this point and they're like, actually, no, this way does not fit my life, and I cannot do these things. You're like, well, you just, cut yourself out of the interview process. Thank you very much. Have a great day. And so it's so I at this stage, you do have to go over all of these things, make sure they're perfectly clear, because eventually they're going to come up. If you launch the team member into your organization and they find out after you hire them that these things are all a reality, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, then you have shot yourself in the foot. You have to discuss this before you hire it to make sure as they come in and do the work that they are fully bought in and they're ready to do this work, and they're really fired up about how we do everything, and they're really bought into all of the rhythms of your organization. So identify any conflicts early and do not adapt your operations to accommodate anybody else's schedule. Don't. Your organization has a mode of operation, and it is very important for you to keep that mode of operation, and that anybody who comes in from the outside integrates into your mode of operation. They must align with how you work. I realize I didn't capitalize they. Sorry about that. But they must align with how you work, how your organization functions. Now, there is a little bit of room for flexibility. You might have half shifts, or you might have a part-time team member, or you might have a virtual team member, or virtual assistants. A lot of that's one of the services that my company provides. We provide virtual assistants to people all around the world to get some of their work done. So you might have a virtual assistant who works slightly different shifts, or maybe a different time zone, because you serve clients in different time zones. For example, I own a translation company as well. That's where we started, right? And languages are global, so we have lots of people in lots of different language time zones representing their languages, right? So there's some flexibility there as well, as far as operation, your mode of operation. But your business has a mode of operation, and the position you have written down, you've detailed out all the specifics of that position. You have the structure. If you have other team members doing a similar position, obviously you know of the operations, how that position operates. You make sure you discuss that, and you do not try to adapt the company to this specific person. Excuse me. Because this person might leave. They might come to your organization. They might not make it through the 90-day probation period. I mean, but your company is going to continue on. If every time you think you've got the perfect team member, you try to adapt your company to them, you're going to have a company that's adapting all over the place and unbelievably inefficient. So when you hire a team member, you clearly help them understand what the mode of operation is for your organization, and that they can operate and succeed in that mode of operation. If not, they're not a good fit, and you weed them out at this level. So don't adapt your operations to accommodate team members. They must align with the mode of operation for your organization. And flexibility is only granted if it benefits the company, and likely you already know about that type of flexibility. It's already happening, and they can be plugged into that system or that mode of operation in that system for that position. All right. Now we come to, I think, one of the most valuable and painful when you get it wrong steps in the process. You've gone through all of this process. You're like, oh my gosh, I got the best team member ever. They're going to integrate into our organization, be amazing. And now you need to do a spousal interview. I'm like, what? My spouse is a homemaker, or my spouse has nothing to do with business. I have a business degree. I know everything about business. My spouse knows nothing. Or I have a finance degree, or I'm a CPA or something, and I know all this stuff about business. But my spouse, they what do they do? They work at this other job, but they do this other thing somewhere. Or you're like, what? No. The spousal interview is so vital. If you skip it, you will lose thousands of dollars. I promise you. This one step alone will save you tens of thousands of dollars. Like, what? Really, seriously, do it. Try it, and you will be a believer. Okay. So how does this work? Executive and their spouse, even if they don't work with your organization, it also gives you a great opportunity to take your wife out for a dinner, right? So, all right, the executive or the leader of that section and their spouse, they take the candidate out to dinner with their spouse, and they get to know their spouse and solicit the input of their spouse, the team member who you're interviewing, spouse, on the position that you have. You explain your company's mission, you explain your company's values, and this requires a lot of clarity from your end, by the way. You need to know your mission. You need to know your values. You need to know why you're doing what you do, what you're doing, and making sure that you can clearly communicate that even to the spouse of the person that you're interviewing. Like, oh my gosh, that sounds like so much work. Yeah, it is so much work. You thought running a company was easy. Well, it's not. It's very difficult. All right, I'm making fun here, but I'm being sarcastic. But in real, you explain all these things to the spouse at the spousal dinner, and you take them out and you have a dinner and you're like, okay, these are the things, this is how we operate, this is who we are, these are the values that we have, and you will be amazed at what you find. And the spouse of that candidate might weed them out of your interview process. She'd be like, well, my husband does not value that whatsoever, or my wife has nothing to do with those kind of values. She would be crazy having to listen to a boss like this talk about those all day. Oh, really? Thank you very much for letting us know. And then you have an awkward rest of the evening and you part ways, and that's, you never see each other again, because that's the end of the interview process. And then on the flip side, so after you've explained that stuff to their spouse and you solicit their input, like, okay, do you genuinely think that this is the right position for your spouse to work with us? Whether it's the husband or the wife, doesn't matter. You solicit the spouse and find out. And some people, you'll find that they are married to crazy. And you want to find out before you hire them. You want to find out before you hire them, because you will be firing them after you hire them if they are married to crazy. So don't skip this step. Now, that's a red flag. Those are important pieces of information. The final litmus test in this section is, oh man, and this is a painful one. You've gone through the wonderful evening, you've had a dinner, you've explained everything, you've solicited the information. The spouse says, yeah, I think this is actually a good fit. Their spouse, the spouse of the team member. Because obviously, at this stage, any normal spouse knows about the very intense interview process that their husband or wife has gone through, and how long it's taken to get to this point, and how challenging it was. And now they're at this point. And if at this point that they say that they think they're a bad fit, they've got some serious problems in their relationship. They're terrible at communicating, and that's only going to bleed over into your company. And you're going to want to make sure you eliminate that from affecting you. Okay, so after you've had this conversation and their spouse says, okay, yeah, I think that my husband or my wife would be a great fit in this position with these values for your organization. I'm so excited for them to start working here. And you get in the car with your own spouse and you're driving home. And you look at your spouse, you say, so how did you feel about this, so-and-so that we just interviewed? And you definitely ask your spouse. You don't ask them about the qualifications. You don't ask them how they feel, if they are a professional enough. You ask them, how do you feel about this hire? Because they likely do not work in your company. And if they do, it's still a good measure. But how do you feel? What are your feelings about this hire? And if they say, you know what, Jason, my name's Jason, if I didn't tell you at the beginning, my wife says, you know what, Jason, I just don't have a good feeling about this person. I don't feel it. I don't feel well about this hire. That is a showstopper. That stops it all. That takes it off the rail. You've already gone through all the steps. It doesn't matter how hard you've worked at this point. It doesn't matter. You stop and you call them up the next day and you're like, it's great meeting you and your spouse. And after our conversation, we just understood that this is not a good fit. And that's it. That's all you say. And then you continue on with the interview process. And I know that sounds hard, and it is hard. And when we started this training session in this webinar, I said this is a pro hire way. I didn't say it's just hiring. I said if you want to hire like a pro, this is how you're going to do that. This is how you're going to work through that process. If you just want to hire people and have warm bodies in your building that show up late still while they're there, or just don't really ever integrate into the work that you do or care about your values, well, you can do something else. This is not that method. But if you want fired up team members who care about what you do, why you do it, and will charge the gates of hell with you, this is how you do it. And so I want to make myself very clear that this is not a nonchalant, unintentional, mediocre team. This is how you hire unbelievably high performance people that are there in the good times, that take you to heights you could have never imagined, and that are with you in the depths of low when you hit them. And they help you get out of them and you work out of them together. Okay? So if your spouse has that feeling, if she says, you know what, John, I don't know how to explain it, but I've got a feeling that it's not the right hire for our company, for your company, or for your team. You listen, you heed that warning, and you move on to the next step. No matter how much work you have done to this point, no matter how much sacrifice you've done to this point, it doesn't matter. You heed that feeling. She sees something or hears something that you don't, and you say, all right, we're not doing it. And you go on and you find another incredible team member who will come in and do the work that you've been given to do, because you're on a mission. You have very deep values. You're very clear about those, and you've communicated that well with your spouse. You guys know what you're after, and she knows what you're after, and she has a feeling that this person is not going to help you get there. And so you heed that feeling, you listen to that, and you take the person out of the hiring process at this point. And it will save you thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars if you just do this step alone and you do it really, really well. So be very careful. Don't be prideful. This means that you, as a great business leader and master of all intelligence and processes and interview techniques, have to set all of that aside and rely on the feelings of somebody who cares and loves you very much, and helps you understand, maybe to see something that you're not able to see because you're so either intellectual or process driven in this area of interview and hiring a great team. All right, step 11, continuing on the spousal interview, preventing a bad hire, save significant time and resources. We already talked about that. For fully remote hires, you still have to do the spousal interview. In fact, if people have fiancés or they're not quite married yet, I also have a interview with their significant other. Every single time, if anybody I'm interviewing has a significant other, they always have we call it a spousal interview, but it could be also a significant other interview. And we always do the interview with their partner, because you will learn so much from having that interview. Plan to meet your virtual team members in person at least one time per year. So if you have virtual team members, and I have them on my team, make great efforts to meet those team members at least one time per year. And if you can do that, you will increase the strength of your relationship, and you will have a much more connected team and a much real relationship, because so many people complain that, well, when they work online, they have no real relationship with the people on the other side of the screen. And to a large extent, that may be so, but I've had so many team members that work on the other side of the screen for most of the year. And yet we still have an incredible relationship with those people, because I actually treat them like team members and they treat me like team members. And I hold them accountable, just like I hold myself accountable. And I treat them just like I would treat them if I was in person, and it works. So try to meet all of your virtual team members at least one time per year. That's a side note for this section. If you have non-in-person team members. All right. So you think you're done, right? You think you got, hooray, we hired the person. No, you are not done. You're like, holy freaking cow. Yeah. We get to this step and we're still not done? No, you are not done. You thought you, you thought operating a company was easy. You thought hiring people was easy. You thought going through this process didn't take an insignificant investment of time, frustration. You thought when people talk about team members and hiring, it was just like, okay, they come in, they have a few interviews, they figure out if they're a good fit, and they hire them. Nope, all wrong. Not if you're going to hire thoroughbreds. Not if you're going to hire people that do something that matter. Not if you're going to hire people that, again, charge the gates of hell with you. Nope, that's not how you do it. How you do it is finishing this process of hiring. Remember, this is only the hiring process. And then afterwards, you have to actually treat them like a team member. We talked about that in another video about leveraging the strengths of your team. I just did a webinar on that last week. You can watch that. But anyways, if you want to actually hire incredibly well, which is what this is about, you have to do this step amazingly well. And that's the final step after you've got through all of the other steps. You're like, this is freaking impossible. It's not impossible. You just have to be intentional and consistent. You have to care about what you're doing. You have to invest yourself. You have to use all your skills and draw out your very best understanding of people, strength, communication, intellectual skills, analytic skills, and invest it in the process of this building a great team. You do have to do that. As a great leader of a company, you're going to have to do that. And you're going to have to learn to do that. And that's why I'm providing these videos, because I went through this process. I've been building on this for the past 15 years, and I've had a lot of dead ends. I've had a lot of hard struggles. I hired some people I shouldn't have, and I had to let them go. It was so painful. And then I hired them, and they didn't turn out well because I didn't have a probation period. And I learned some of these things the hard way. So don't skip it. Step 12 is a 90-day probation period. And I'm going to talk about the 45-day rule that I've observed as well. Start the team member and integrate them into the work. Boom. We've hired them. They made it through the spousal interview. We've got all the other steps out. We are jazzed about them coming to work here. We love them. They are so cool. We've given them the responsibility. They came in, they analyzed everything that they were supposed to do, and they gave us recommendations of more things that they could understand how to do, how they could enhance the impact that they brought into the work. And they're like investing themselves. And they actually care. They're bringing it. And this is like the third day. You're like, holy freaking cow. These people are awesome. Yeah, because you did an amazing job hiring. All right, so now we provide an in-depth cultural orientation, our mission, our values, our vision for our organization. We've already talked about what they're supposed to do, so they know it, and they're already giving us recommendations on how to improve on that, and they're implementing those things themselves, not recommending what we should do. They're recommending what they can do. They're bringing it to the table, and they're bringing us ideas, and they're having a massive impact. They're getting all their stuff done on time. They're coming in and streamlining processes that we didn't see before because we weren't awesome in that position, but they're coming in now. They're just streamlining and bringing awesome stuff, and they're solving problems and kicking butt. It's amazing. We've assigned relevant books for deeper understanding. Get books that one of my favorite books. Not The Advantage. Sorry, this one. This is the one I meant. Entrepreneur Leadership by Dave Ramsey. I recommend that book to team members, and they come into our organization and they read that because it explains so many things about what I do and what I've learned and why I do what I do. And then there's other books like The Ideal Team Player, The Go Giver, and then the Who Moved My Cheese book. And you find books that manifest the values that you have in your life and that you think have caused your organization to win over time and that have caused you to be successful, and that really give a clear understanding, like Story Brand, around how we want to communicate with clients and how we're clear and how we create clarity and communication and how we really draw people in and date our clients, right? How we do all of these things. You've really drawn them in, and then you've given them clear expectations, and you've given them clear mission, vision, and values. And that means you have to know those things. That means you have to do all the work to build those things. And I'm going to talk about that in another video, how to build your mission, vision, and values, and strategic plan and goal setting, all those things for the future. And then you set clear expectations. If they don't fit in this 90 days, they can leave anytime. Because a lot of times, even at this stage, guys, this is still before you've hired them. And I know it sounds like a lot of work, and it is a lot of work, but when you do it well, you are rewarded over and over again. So you set the clear expectations. If they don't fit in within the 90 days at any time, of course, we're going to have some discussion around that because we built such a relationship by now with this team member. We actually have some kind of a history together. So we try to want to figure out if in this 90 days that they like, I don't feel like I fit in. And you're like, okay, let's have a discussion about that. And if at the end of that discussion, it's like, yeah, they really feel like they don't fit in, and okay, we can just agree, and and that's it. Anytime within the first 90 days, they can just say, hey, I really don't feel like I fit in, have a conversation with their leader, and that's it. Des vidania, right? They're gone. Hasta luego, right? We'll see you sometime. My observation is the 45-day rule. At 45 days, you pretty much know. This is the beauty of that. You've been working, they've done all the things that I just said, and then it hits for you before you know it. If things are going well, the time just flies, and you hit 45 days, and you're like, "Holy cow!" You've been reading the books, you're invested in our values, you love the work, you're involved here, you're part of our team because you came in, it was like, whoop, you filled a hole in a vacuum. It was like, whoop, you're just part of our team now. It was like you were always here because we hired incredibly well, and we've got a great team member, and you're just kicking butt. And at 45 days, everything's just clicking. And if at this point the team members come in at 45 days, you kind of know. And I think that I've seen it time and time again. If they've made it to 45 days, the odds are that they make it to 90 are really high. And 90 is the end of the hiring process. So 90-day probation is the end of the hiring process. And at the 45-day mark, I will also say, if they have lied or been untruthful or been unclear or not been very, not clearly understood throughout the hiring process, at 45 days, we find out. Because by this point, you're holding them accountable, deadlines have been made, results are required, and they have either hit them or not. Their life has had the opportunity to kind of coincide with your mode of business or not. And they find out like, oh my gosh, my life does not fit this mode of business. I can't show up for the meetings on time. I can't get the one-on-ones in. I can't get my weekly reports in. I can't do this, and I can't do all of the things that are required to be successful here. And at 45 days, you find that out. You will find it out. I guarantee you. And it will start becoming a problem. And it's very important at this stage because you have so much invested in this relationship at this stage. And you're like, I just want to be done with the process of hiring. You can't be done. If you stop and if you fail at this stage, you still fail the entire process. You have to do it well. You have to communicate. You have to do the one-on-ones. You have to get them the books. You have to make sure they understand your mission, vision, and values. You can't just telling it once at the very beginning, forget about it. And it's like, I told you once, now you know our mission, vision, and values, and I never have to tell you again. You can't do that. You don't have the luxury of doing that if you want a great team member, of team members who actually care, who actually win over time. If everything is running great by the 45-day mark, you continue and most likely know that you're going to succeed at your 90-day mark. However, at this point, it is very likely for you to find that there is some mismatch. And that's painful. And you have to address that and accept that. And as a leader of an organization, and sometimes it's so almost depressing, and you kind of have to mourn your loss. But at the same time, you need to acknowledge that you have saved yourself and your team from a long-term hurt and a long-term injury. You need to take the short-term loss, the long-term gain. So you've been invested in this process. It's taken you a few months to get to this point, probably. And now you find out that it's not a good fit. But the good thing is, if you did the interview process right, and you took multiple candidates through this process, there's probably someone else at one of the prior stages of the interview process where when this person came out on top, they were set aside, but not necessarily an unqualified candidate. And you can go back and reach out to those candidates and start moving them forward through all the next steps. And that's something that kind of gives me some encouragement. It's like, okay, we did this well. We had a group of candidates. A lot of them fell off along the way, but there are these one or two candidates that really shined, and we chose this one, and this one didn't make it past the 45 days. So now what do? We go back and we get the other one, and hopefully there's one or two there that you can start taking forward in the interview process again. And likely you don't have to start all the way over at the beginning. It's very rare at this stage of our business when I actually have to go all the way back to the beginning, because it's likely that somebody is somewhere in the process of the hiring process that may be able to move into that position, or there's somebody in our organization now that it's been become very clear that they can take that role and we can refill their position maybe with a more junior role. And so there's a lot of options that come into this. And that's why having a good consultant and good team on your side to help you do that. And that's what I do. It's one of the things that I do is I help team members and leaders find out, understand what they need to do to work through big challenges like that in their companies. And so that's why it's so important to help you kind of navigate that. And at this point, though, if you've got to 45 days and everything's clicking, and then they get to the 90 days, then you have a meeting with your whole team and you say, so and so made it through the interview process, integrated into our company. And if somebody else at that point has given you the referral, here's a pile of cash. And we count that out and pay that out in the meeting to that team member. Of course, if the meeting's virtual, you just pay it to the person just figure out a way to do it virtually. That's creative and fun for your team. And you pay them out a referral bonus, like so-and-so made this referral. This guy made it through the 90-day period. We are stoked. Now let's go forward and prosper together. And it's another great time to say, hey guys, by the way, if you guys have any great team members in your back pocket somewhere that you think might be rock stars, let us know and we'll work on the interview process together with them. All right. During the probation period, I know this is a lot, guys. I know this is a challenging subject, but I want to be very comprehensive and hopefully really and truly help somebody. Be sure that you're consistent with your deadline adherence. They must meet deadlines. You establish your relationship at this point. They must meet the deadlines. They must adapt to the company norms. They must embody your company values. They must have measurable progress in these areas. No scheduling conflicts. Compensation and benefits are clear. You've communicated them clearly and they've understood them. A positive working relationship is an environment is happening and they have all the necessary tools that they need to succeed. But you have to do all of these things in the 90-day probation period. And if you do them well, your team member can succeed and you can create an incredible, powerful producing team. And then what's next? You grow the company and you prepare for the next hire. Always be mindful of when and where your company needs its next team members. I currently am aware of the next team members our company needs right now. And the process of time we'll be working on as we're ready, getting those team members and integrating them into our company. This is a process in your organization that never, ever ends. And as a business owner, it's something that you have to come to terms with. You're like, my gosh, is that really what business owners do? Is that really how people hire incredibly well? Yeah, it is. It really is. And it takes sacrifice. It takes time, a lot of effort, and all of your best skills. And if you do it incredibly well, you will be rewarded again and again and again for many years to come. And you will make your life and everybody's life on your team infinitely better because you invested yourself well in a process that creates winning. Winning for you, for your family, for your community, for all the people in your company, for your clients, and it creates a powerful organization that impacts the world around you for incredible good. So always be mindful. At this stage, we completed the process. Hooray, let's celebrate that and charge forwards, and let's celebrate it by growing our company to the next level and keep our eyes open for the very next hire that we are going to hire. Because if your organization is growing, there's always going to be some positions that you need to fill as you look into the future. All right. So that's my information on hiring. Please like and subscribe to this channel and look in the notes for this webinar because I'm providing some resources to you that you can use as you go through your hiring process. Um, and you'll be able to take a look at those and just really help them integrate into your company so that you can really grow and become better in this area of hiring and hire like a pro. It sounds like a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but when you do it well, the rewards vastly outweigh the investment. And so please, again, like, subscribe, and hit that notifications bell, and go to our Jason Ellinger Taika CEO on YouTube. Please subscribe there and subscribe I'm sorry, I just keep saying subscribe. Anyways, you get the idea. Subscribe wherever you can. See a subscription bell, and I would greatly appreciate that. And please share the content if it's been helpful in any way, shape, or form with anybody that you know who needs it and needs to become better at hiring. And drop comments below and let us know any of the questions that you have in and around this issue of hiring, and I will answer them. I will make sure if you have put any comments in the video in the comment section for any of the videos that actually get a comprehensive answer back to you to where you can actually move the needle forward, because I'm all about making sure that everyone on my team and anybody who interacts with any of our content has the tools they need to move things forward and scale their life, scale their business, and ultimately achieve their most wildest goals and dreams that they can come up with. And oftentimes we do that together with a team. Most often. All right. Thank you very much for spending this time with me. I look forward to hearing about your successes in the comments and hearing about issues that you've faced in previous hires, and maybe even some really cool stories or some like never do that again moments that you'd like to share, and would love to see those. So please share those with me, and comment and subscribe and hit the notifications bell, and I will see you in the next video. Again, I'm for the next 5 weeks, I will be providing a session just like this at 9:30 Eastern time on Wednesday, 9:30 Eastern time, Wednesday mornings, to help business owners scale their company and become better in areas just like this. So thank you again for listening to the video, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.